I am Mindi, and I am the wardrobe supervisor here at Opera Orlando.
I am Katy. I am the costume designer for this show, Silent Night.
That's great. So how long have you been working in costuming, just in general and also for Opera Orlando?
I've been with Opera Orlando now. This is my second season with them. As far as working in costuming, longer than all you guys have been alive, off and on.
I've been with Opera Orlando about a year now. My first show was last February.
Mm-hmm.
And then in costuming, I've worked with costuming just in general since high school and college. And then I've been a costume designer for about a year and a half.
That's great. How did you get started with costuming? Was this something you began when you were in high school or earlier? Did something inspire you?
My mom always sewed. So I learned to sew from her, and at her church, our church, she would sew her own, costumes and everything. But she sewed a lot of our clothes. So I learned to sew from her, and then I would start sewing for things at the church as well. And it just became one of those things I fell into and have enjoyed doing for theme parks, for performing companies, theater companies, just wherever needed.
Kind of a similar thing. My mom taught me the real basics of sewing when I was little. And then I just kind of taught myself some. I learned some in my college shop classes. And then got to know a lot more about sewing when I joined a costume house that does stuff for theme parks and cruise lines and stuff.
That's incredible. So you had a nice wide variety when you got started. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So what do you think, especially because this is more of a period piece, what has been some of the biggest challenges with preparing for this show?
This has actually been an interesting situation because we rented the entire package from the company that originally did the opera. So for us, it's taking the period pieces and altering, altering the existing pieces as it is, and then the few pieces we are having to acquire, making sure they're within that same time period, or buying or finding something that is modern but that can be modified to being within that same time period. It's been interesting. Shoes, luckily, men's shoes haven't changed that much in the last 100 years or so. So finding those, and again, just distressing them because we can't have these weathered, aged costumes and brand new boots. So
thinking about how to put it into the story and making sure that their boots that we bought brand new look like they've been worn on the battlefield in the trenches for weeks and months and years.
Mm-hmm. So what was your favorite production that you've ever worked on?
I'm going to say I've worked on a lot of productions and had a great time with pretty much every single one of them. But my favorite and most recent history was when we did this summer, which some of you will know about. But Big Fish at Theater at St. Luke's, and the costume designer was absolutely amazing and just real innovative with a lot of her different ideas. And it was fun to coordinate working with a team on that and help the vision come to life and make it, as the show itself, bigger than the actual show. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Big Fish has been something. I was not familiar with the show at all and fell in love with it through the costumes and the story.
My first choice is probably the same one, Big Fish. That's also just kind of recent memory. So my other favorite that I would say is probably 42nd Street, which was my favorite, or my first show that I was the costume designer for. And it was, to that point, the biggest project I had ever undertaken, and I was so proud of how it turned out.
That's amazing. So have you ever had, what was the biggest mishap that's happened with costuming, whether it was during a show or like a show was about to start and something just broke or didn't work and there was something? What was it and how did you fix it?
You just keep going on the fly. That's what part of what I specialize in. I want to say, a number of years ago, I was working with a group called Encore Performing Arts, and it was literally many shows with them where things would break on stage. I just have to fix them real quick. But probably the biggest one that we had, I did a production in 2019, again at Theater at St. Luke's, Mary Poppins. The costume designer was AJ Garcia, who was a very dear friend of mine. And we had made a costume for the nanny who was coming in to try to take Mary Poppins' place. And a dear friend of mine, another dear friend of mine, played the role. And when she would be poisoned. She had to fling herself back into this rolling chair. It would roll. She had this massive black skirt on that every single night would catch. No, didn't matter how much we'd practiced it, and it worked, and it staged, everything was fine. But every single night, she'd push herself back, and it would rip. It would catch the hem and rip. So it became a running joke that every single night she would come off stage, and I would sit back there because I was doing the show as well. Sit there in my costume, re-sewing her dress. And what I finally did was take black gaff tape, because you can rule the world with black gaff tape. Gaff tape, and reinforce the entire hem with that. And the last couple shows, we didn't have any more problems. But that's just one of those things. I've had shoes break mid-show. I've had shoes fly off into the audience mid-show. Things rip, things tear. You just do what you can do. I think one of my proudest moments was when we were doing Sound of Music a couple years ago. And we had a double cast children's group and doing the quick changes. And my kids actually had a mishap where they were doing something and the zipper completely broke while I was doing another quick change. And I watching all the scurrying happen over there and didn't know what's going on until they came back later and told me, like, Miss Mindi, the zipper broke, but we grabbed the other costume and pinned it on her and it went great. And I'm like, fabulous. So it's like getting people to kind of understand when things happen, don't panic. There's always a safety pin or gaff tape around.
Do you have any advice that you would give to any high school students that might be interested in doing something in the arts, whether it's costuming, props, backstage, anything at all?
Want to take it, Lou?
I think I would say just learn every different thing that you can. I know that I'm a better costumer for having a background in being a performer, for understanding. I've had, not that I have a ton of history in it, but some experience with like sets and props, and knowing how all of those work together and how to best collaborate with those other members of your team is going to help you in whatever element of your production you're working on. And being able to understand your partner's jobs really helps you to come up with really cool solutions and ways to collaborate on neat effects and designs.
And quick changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say be open to everything. You may have a set direction or a stage direction or a choreographic direction or a costume that you're like, I don't see it like that. But you've got to understand that what you're being given is being seen from a director's point of view, and that collaboration, we're going to work to make whatever you're wearing comfortable and cohesive and working with whatever stunts or dancing you're doing. But yeah, just be open to everything, open to new experiences, open to learning how to paint a set. Jump in and learn how to run a soundboard, because the more things that you can learn to do, the more versatile you'll be.
Great. Thank you so much. That's amazing.